All right, before we get into the 60 different passive income streams that you can create, let's take a moment to look at, why is passive income so important, and also how will it impact your life? How do you use it? How do you think around money? Because passive income is all good and great, but if it's not a part of your overall plan and strategy, it's not going to do much for your future. So something I want to look at is the Cashflow Quadrants. If you haven't looked at this before, this is an amazing tool created by Robert and Kim Kiyosaki. They wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a best-selling book. I don't know if you've read it. If you haven't, you should. It's an amazing book. But in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they start talking about the cash flow quadrants. And it's really a way of easily splitting people into one of 4 quadrants based on where they make their money. And I know it's wrong to split people in based on money, but they did it, not me, so don't shoot the messenger, okay? But the reason why I want to bring this up, because these 4 quadrants represent your journey as an investor, as an entrepreneur. So most of us, just like I started in the E quadrant, which stands for employee. So I was an employee, and as an employee, I felt stuck. Honestly, I was working in a very high performance, high intense type job, and I was very stressed. I was in an office all day. It was, it should have been 9 to 5, usually became 9 to 7, and we're working really, really hard, and I didn't find any pleasure from it. Okay, and then I had at the time a very, very poor boss, which let's just say he was very aggressive in his management style. So there were literally people crying at the office, and occasionally would come after me. And I'm a pretty calm person, but sitting there and taking it and trying to talk sensibly to it, it just didn't work. I felt stuck. I felt trapped, and I felt I wanted something different. I'd also gone through the experiences, as you know from the webinar, with wanting to have a different life where I could spend more time with my children rather than miss their childhood. So I had both these things kind of pushing me when I was in this employee quadrant, and I wanted to move out of it. And I knew my dream was to reach the investor quadrant, the I quadrant, which means that as an investor, you live off of your passive income, you live off of your investments, and that allows you to have the time to do other things. Today I've been able to build a property portfolio, which allowed me to quit my job, which was really cool. Let me tell you that story really quick. It was one of these days when my boss was screaming at me. I'd started creating my passive income. So I actually had income, and I was getting to that point where I didn't need my job. And I finally just snapped. I just felt, you know what? I don't have to take this. I am worth more than this. I'm not going to take him yelling at me. And I stood up when he was standing there yelling. I stood up and said, you know what? And I started yelling back. And we just started yelling. And my colleagues outside, it was like the common thing, oh, who's he yelling at today? And they, walk by. But they kind of started looking around like, but who is he yelling at? And who is that yelling back? And then we had like this kind of pane glass. You couldn't see the top part of us, but you could kind of see our shoes. And they started looking, and they realized it's Daniel in there. Daniel's actually shouting. What's going on? And because I'm like I said, I'm a calm guy. I'm hard to get angry. And we were shouting and yelling, having this big argument. And finally, I just went, you know what? I quit. and in Hollywood, you do that. Yeah, I quit. And it cuts off, and it's like, oh, I'm free now. In real life, it doesn't really go that way. I yell, I quit. And I turned around and started to leave. And as I opened the door, I turned back and I went, like, what do I do now? He said, well, what do you mean? Well, am I supposed to sign some paperwork? Where do I get that little box that I always have in movies when they've packed up their desk? How does this work? He's like, you know what? Just go sit down at your desk. I'll bring you the paperwork, and then you have a month before you're allowed to leave. You have to pass over your job and your clients and everything, and before you leave. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. So it kind of got a little awkward. So it wasn't the Hollywood I quit and then you leave. It was like, I quit. I'm gonna go sit at my desk now. But it was very, very liberating. And that's what I want for you. I want you to have that liberation, and it takes time to build it through property investing. It is the most stable and secure. Once you have it through property, you'll have it for the rest of your life. But what we want to do in this video is help you get more, or in this course, I should say, in Passive Income Mastery, we want to help you get these other income streams coming in, because that way you can build it up faster and start making that money. So in the next video, I'm going to show you the 60 passive income streams, and then we have an additional video where I show you how to implement and how to use this. So you have 4 videos in total in this video. I think in this series, I think that will help you start putting this into play, and it's all about you now. Once you have this, it's about you putting it into action, and then one day you can have your "I quit" and then awkward discussion. Okay? All right, well done. Good luck. See you soon.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lucas Bryski, and today I have a pleasure to deliver a webinar for you about passive incomes. Why is passive income so an exciting topic? Well, passive income is the key to your financial freedom. All of us are willing to become financially free and financially independent. So we need to understand why and how can we generate those incomes that will help us to free ourselves from our daily job, and something that will help us focus on things we love and something we want to do, instead of going to our job and doing things we must, or maybe we have a certain choice of what we do. Maybe we still can refocus on something that's really, really important for us. So passive incomes is an exciting topic. I think there are a few misconceptions about passive incomes. Many people think that passive income is something you create overnight, whereas, well, definitely generating sources of passive income requires some time and efforts. Sometimes it's actually easier than you think, and that's something I'll be trying to show you today. That some of the ways of generating passive income you can actually acquire right after this webinar. So stay tuned. We have 60 passive income sources to go through today. So I'm super excited to present everything for you today. Now, there are 2 basic ways to get passive incomes, to generate passive incomes. First is obviously buy something that already generates a passive income, and the other way is to create a passive income, so something that requires some more work, but personally I think it's much more rewarding. We'll start those 60 passive income sources with some maybe slightly more creative ideas for people who are slightly more creative, or have some abilities or some experience that they can utilize to generate those sources. For instance, if you are a specialist and you know something that you can share with, you can write a book. That's a very good of generative passive income. Whenever you publish something, whether it's an ebook or a regular book, or maybe some instruction or something where you share the knowledge and you give value, for every copy of your book, you receive royalties. So, the longer the book is published, the more money you acquire. And nowadays, it's really easy to actually write and publish your book. You don't have to go to a regular publisher. Everyone knows Amazon. It's really easy to just write an ebook and publish it on Amazon nowadays. So I would definitely recommend trying. Like, if you know something and you have the knowledge you can share, it's definitely worth trying out. Another way is to record a song. Well, I know maybe some of you are musicians. Sometimes there's this opportunity to record a song for a special event or something that you can then reuse for some other purposes. Obviously, you can record an audiobook. I know a few people who actually launched a website where they record audiobooks, and even though they're not their books, they just read it out. They just read it and record audiobooks, and then they can sell it. Well, they don't sell the books because they don't have an author the right to it, but they sell access to the website where they publish those audiobooks. So that's an option. If you are a programmer, for instance, you can create an app. It's also quite easy to publish your own apps to Google Play or Apple Play Store or Apple App Store. So if you have those skills, definitely worth giving it a shot, especially if you have a good idea. Something that you can also use if you're first a photographer, but not necessarily always. You have to be a photographer to have some interesting photos, which you can publish on different photo portals, like for say iStock, for instance, where you publish your own photos, and whenever somebody uses your photo, you get a commission on this. So some people use it for their blogs or some Instagram accounts. Maybe even somebody like prints a book and they need some special photos. They can buy these photos from you through various websites. Now I talked a bit about being able to generate some passive income straight away after this webinar, and I think this is the section that actually covers some of those ideas, because, well, we have a place to live, and sometimes maybe we have an extra space that we can rent out. For instance, you can rent out your garage if you don't use it. I actually have a garage that I don't use, and well, it's rented out. I have a tenant, if you can say so, who is keeping his car in my garage. Doesn't bring very high profits, but still, I mean, it's just an extra money every month. If you have a parking lot, same thing, you can rent it out. If you have a room that is free, you don't use it, you can publish it on Airbnb or Booking.com or some other websites where it's a short when people can rent this room from you on a short term. Or if you, but obviously that gives some very high returns, because it's a short term lets are always more profitable. But if you have a tenant who stays longer, for long term, say if you have a student that can rent out your room, it's a probably more stable income with a slightly less profit, but still pretty good if the room is empty. If you have a storage that you can rent out, that's also a pretty good way to generate some extra income. Renting out tools, that's something really interesting, because I have a friend who actually owns a company where he rents out things that you wouldn't think about. Like he has, for instance, machines that produce foam in different shapes for parties or company events, and that brings quite good money, to be honest. So different people need different things you might not even think about. But those can be even simpler things, like some garden utilities, like a lawn mower or a drill or something, like typical tools. But it can be also leisure things, like you have an extra tent that you don't use, you can also rent it, or some completely other things that you wouldn't think of. If you have a trailer, that's also quite good way to generate a passive income if you rent it out to somebody. Trailers are actually not that expensive, So if you have it and it stands in the garage and you don't use it, well, why not just make it bring some extra cash for you? Obviously, if you don't have a car, you can rent out too. You can also rent out a part of your garden or land. I don't do it myself, but I know exactly, and I know somebody who has a pretty big garden, and they rent it out for events. For like if there's somebody wants to organize a party, if or a company wants to organize some sort of event, they put a big tent in his garden and simply pay him for that. Stables. If you have horses, you can also let people keep their horses in your stable. Again, that brings some extra money for you. If you have a car, some companies actually pay to put advertising on the car, so you can put a sticker or some magnet ads on your car. You can also use it if you especially if you drive a lot, because everything is dependent. The prices they pay is dependent on your mileage, on the how much do you drive during a month. Advertising on your land. If you have a place which is in a good location and you can put a billboard on, that can also be quite a good investment. Different places have different regulations, so you have to always check whether you can actually do it. But I know that in Sweden at least, where I do live, it's forbidden to put billboards or like regular billboards on by the highway. So what people do is they actually rent out a part of the land which is next to the highway, and they put a big car and just put it out of the car. So it's not a regular billboard, but it's like sneaky. I mean, it's the way probably to to go around the rules. But well, it is according to the law. It's just that it's slightly more creative, I would say. But then, if you have a land which would be attractive for this kind of advertising or for billboards, which is like more probably something that requires some more investment, but still brings you some additional passive income, that would be a good way to utilize that land. Obviously, you can also create a company that brings you some money. You can set an online course. If you have we talked about books and about selling your royalties on the books. You can also create an online course that's quite popular. It's you create it once and essentially you resell it. You can also create a Udemy course. It's quite popular portal where you can buy education or educational courses. In many cases, those courses are quite cheap, so actually they are very popular. Me myself, I'm learning quite a lot through Udemy platform. Sometimes I pay like $20 for a course. And again, if you have something to share and you want to record it, you can record it. You can get a passive income because you record only once and then it works for you. You can create an Amazon business, of course. It's quite popular those days as well. I mean, Amazon, you probably recognize Amazon. They have a platform where you can just go and sell your own stuff. It's if you find a niche, it can be very very attractive. Something that is very passive, because Amazon business may not be very passive if you think about it, but becoming an affiliate marketer, for instance, that's the next way, can be an extremely powerful source of passive income. So imagine that you have a strong network, and somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I have this product to sell. Can you help me selling that?" And then you don't have, even though you don't have your own product, you don't have your own service, but you have a very strong network. You can help somebody sell their product to your network, and then you get a commission on every item sold to your network. Extremely powerful. Um, if you well, if you still have a product that you want to sell, you can actually be on the other side, which means that you find a network and you get an affiliate partner, and you sell your product through affiliate partners. So again, you use your product and you help, and you get help from others to sell it, which means that it becomes passive for you. Something that is also quite common, there are many YouTubers or vloggers who create blogs or vlogs. They record instructions. Video becomes extremely powerful those days. Like imagine that if probably you record yourself whenever you're seeking for help, if you go to Google and ask, how can I do something, then it's not only the static websites that pop up, but you also get links to the videos. And of course, everybody is tempted to click on the videos because video actually helps you understand things better. So if you create a YouTube channel which say explains explain things or has instructions on things, you can build a very strong network and a lot of followers. And if your videos reach some point of popularity, you can put ads. You can add ads to your videos, and you get ads, or you can get commission on every single ad that's being displayed in your video. Extremely powerful. People are making a lot of money through YouTube ads. Similar thing with the blog. If you have a very specialistic blog about certain topics, you can get advertisements through your blog. Creating a podcast, absolutely yes. Sound and video becomes very popular. Video for obvious reasons, sound and podcasts went on the hype a few years ago, whenever like people started to use their mobile phones all the time, and people who are commuting are listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and that's the perfect way to build your brand and to place ads in your podcasts, or either physically somewhere on your website, but also placing it in your podcasts. It becomes a very good source of money. You can be an introducer. Introducer is somebody who knows many people. So again, it's a networker and somebody who knows many people who do different things. And then somebody comes to you and say, "Hey, I need this new product. Can you introduce me to somebody?" I was in a position like this once. A very interesting thing happened. There was an entrepreneur who was looking for accommodation in Sweden, and they wanted to host many people. That was their problem. And the property market in Sweden, especially the rental market, is quite hard. It's quite difficult to get into, especially if you're seeking place to host many tenants. So I managed to introduce this guy to another friend of mine who is actually developing properties, building houses, and they got into the deal where they instead of renting the property, they actually are building and developing, building new houses for their tenants. And then me, who was in the middle, was obviously got an introducer fee, just because I made a few phone calls during one afternoon. That's how it all started. So extremely powerful to be an introducer. Sometimes sometimes this is not like one time thing. Sometimes there's an ongoing contract. Then you can actually get it to make passive, and you can get cash flow out of it over a longer period of time. You can create a comparison website. Again, you don't have your own product, but you are comparing different products. Again, that's a way of publishing the contents. If you publish the contents, you can get traction on your website. You get ads. You get product placements. Online advertising in any form, of course. Vending machines. It's quite funny because I remember a few years ago, I had a friend who got an idea that he will send condoms in one of the dormitories. Everybody was laughing at him. He was like, "Okay, you're a condom guy." But then he actually launched it, and he set up a vending machine for condoms in one of the university dorms. It went really well, as you can imagine, and he set up a business around it. He's very successful. He owns many vending machines all over the country, and now now it definitely is a passive income. He's not only into condom market, but it's also into drinks and stuff. So very good business. If you are a bookworm, you can also write a book review website. Again, there comes ads, but also there comes affiliate marketing into this. When you publish book reviews, you can also publish them with links to, say, Amazon, where you get your affiliate code. So whenever somebody purchases from your link, then you get an affiliate fee, which becomes the passive income, obviously. If you are very creative, you can start if you create a new product, you can obviously create a patent. That's a very good money, but it's for a very few who can create patents. Franchise company, if you have a successful business already, you can always franchise it. So basically let people use your brand. There are a few steps you usually introduce to get people into franchise with you, because basically they use your brand, they pay you a monthly fee, but you can set up in a slightly more creative way so that you can create like courses on how to do that. If in your organization they need to pay you for some extra services or some extra accreditation on to become your franchise, and so on. Franchise, if you have a brand already, it's good to roll it out and start making money on your brand. Patreon. Patreon actually comes from the very old way of sponsoring artists. So that's more or less where the term comes from. When there were some painters in the past, they were seeking people who were supporting them with money for doing things they love. And that's exactly how this business looks like nowadays as well. So if you have a hobby and you create something, maybe you create a furniture, maybe you paint, you do something extraordinary, and you can basically you can get money out of it, even for doing what you love, because you can sign up to websites which help people support other people on their hobbies. So again, you can have somebody who pays you just because they like what you do. We talked about Udemy as an online course platform. Well, you can create your own online university if you have either a lot of knowledge yourself, or you have a network of people who actually have a lot of knowledge. So you can maybe you can cover different topics, record a lot of materials, and then set up an online university or a portal where you basically publish your knowledge, and then you charge monthly fees on that, or some sort of a way to make people pay you for access to this website. Of course, you can create a company, and maybe um, that's quite obvious idea, I would say, because it's well, you create a company, but if you really want to open the company and you plan to stepping out of the company at some point, putting a director on top of the company, then you become only a shareholder. So you become a business owner instead of being a director of your own company. That can, of course, bring you a passive income. It takes a few years. Usually, it's not that quick, but you can start doing it already now, and then in a few years you can actually quit your own company and become a shareholder and get a passive income, get dividends. E-commerce, again, if you find your niche, e-commerce is very popular. You can either use platforms like Amazon, you can use Shopify. Shopify is actually really interesting. It's also booming nowadays. Basically, if you can import products from Asia and then sell it in your own local market, if you find a niche, you don't even you can get pretty good margin on those products, and sometimes you don't even see the product yourself because it's going directly from Asia to your customer. So you don't have to. It becomes passive in a sense because you don't really do the hard work of keeping those products or sending them and so on. You just connect two different worlds and you get the money in between. And of course, my favorite part, which is the investment passive incomes. A few ideas. Obviously, shares or stocks. It's I used to invest in stocks that pay out dividends. Usually, the ROIs or the yields are not. It depends. Yield and ROIs depend. Different words you call those terms differently, or understand those terms differently. But essentially, your profit, your yield is around up to 5%. Funds, of course, crypto mining. That's cryptocurrencies. There are a lot of discussions about cryptocurrencies now, but it's still pretty good business if you have if you can mine cryptocurrencies. We still don't know which ones will be the ones that will become very popular. I know, as you know, this is a very volatile market for crypto investing, but crypto mining is still quite good way of an income, as long as you invest in the infrastructure, because that actually requires some investment upfront. My favorite is the renting properties, so real estate. That's probably one of the oldest ways of generating passive income, and probably the most stable one, where you basically buy properties and rent them out on the market. You can also buy and rent out parking lots, of course. Self-storage, that's something I remember discussing that topic with one of my Swiss friends. He said that if he ever manages to get into this market, he will be very lucrative. This business will be very lucrative. It's when you basically build a house with a lot of storage rooms. I think it becomes very popular everywhere. People have a lot of stuff, and they use it for either keeping the things that they own. And we are living in this era where everybody can have everything, so we collect stuff. But also when people move and they need some extra storage. Share options, stock options. So basically, you are offering options on shares on your own company. You can rent out an office if you have in the business already, or you can buy an office as well. But if you run a business, you rent the office yourself. You can rent out some extra space to somebody else. Somebody you can sometimes you can rent a forest, you can rent out a forest, so buy a forest and rent out. You can do speculation on the land as well, so they buy and then you rent out. Um, I know that it's um, nowadays in a few places where there's a big shortage of land. Sometimes companies actually lease the land for many years. They put containers on it and then just build a building with containers. It's very easy to build in this technology. Doesn't really look like containers. It looks like a regular building, but they lease land for many years, like 20 years, 30 years, and they build something on it. Um, well, if you know something about plants, maybe you can create a plantation and you can again rent it out or make it hire people to work for you, and then it becomes a passive income. Some people also invest in racehorses, slightly probably less popular, but still an option. You can buy and rent a racehorse to somebody else or take bids on the horse. It's a whole big business. Bank certificates. Sometimes you can lend, you can make a loan to the bank actually on a slightly higher interest than you get in a regular saving account, and then bank generates some certificate of the loan that you make. Peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer comes from English sort of or American ground where you loan make a loan to some person on the same level as you are. That's why it's called peer-to-peer. So basically, somebody needs money, for instance, for an investment. That's something we use in property world. We use quite a lot of angel investment money, where basically people lend money for our investments, and then we pay them in interest. Credit loan. There are some companies that actually give loans to other people, but then they offer investments to investors like you, for instance. So if you have some extra money to spare, you can make a loan to the company that gives loan to other people. Venture capital, many startups nowadays. If you think that there's a company which is looks interesting, you can actually make a loan to the small startup, and if there's a good prospect, maybe it's worth the money. Crowdfunding properties or crowdfunding companies, crowdfunding loans. Again, you make a loan, and then you get some money, so get some interest on these. You can buy royalties. We talked about writing a book, but actually you can buy royalties and get money on those royalties as well. The very basic one is the saving account. Of course, we know that banks don't offer very high interest nowadays, but there's always an option to keep the money on the saving account. Although I would recommend not doing so, because probably there are better ways to utilize your money or make the money work better for you. In example, through properties, obligations, of course, and finally investing in a company. Again, if you know companies that are that have very good prospects, you can also rent it. You can also make a loan to the company and get some interest out of it. Something that is not mentioned in the list, but I actually thought about one more passive income. So I'll add you more. The 61 or 61st passive income source is renting out domains. I have a friend who owns a few domains that he managed to buy, and now people are renting those domains from them. So if you can find a good .com domain, then you can also make a passive income out of it. Me myself, I own a few domains that I put up to rent. I didn't find any person or company who would loan them, but I just put them out on the market. So I'm curious to see how it's gonna work. So thank you for today. Those are the all 61 actually passive income sources that we went through today. It's really important that you start building your passive incomes um, as soon as possible. I remember Jim Rohn, I call him my mentor, but he is one of the people who had a very strong impact on me, and he actually that's from him I heard the term of financial independence and the passive income first. He said that if you are not financially free before the age of 40, that means that somebody gave you a wrong a wrong screenplay for your life. So you have to create your own. So I hope you can learn something from this webinar, and I truly believe that there are many passive income sources that you can start creating right after this webinar. And for now, I thank you very much, and I wish you good luck, and see you at the next webinar. Bye bye.